You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com. Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me now on the Newsmaker line is the Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling TV champion and one of the promoters of the promotion that will be making its debut on national TV tomorrow. And he, of course, is Preston Quinn. Are you with me, sir?
I'm here, buddy.
It's such a pleasure to have you on. I guess let's start out with the obvious elephant in the room and the reason for having you on. Tomorrow night, the big debut. You're going to be on Right Now TV in millions and millions of people's living rooms. So how big is this for you and your promotion?
I mean, when we decided to make Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling, this was exactly what we had in mind. We didn't want to be just an indie that ran once a month or sporadically or whatever in one or two towns. It was, we want to do this, we want to make it a multi-state territory, and we want to be on TV.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. And the style that you guys present, Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling, it is what it sounds like. It does what it says on the box. You guys have a territory style, a style that, I grew up in New Jersey, but somehow, for some reason, I've got Mid-Atlantic and Memphis wrestling and Georgia wrestling in my blood. I don't know how that happened, but it is the case. That's kind of what I get from you guys. You guys present an old school territory style with new school talent and new school kind of maneuvers and things like that. Is that what you had in mind when you had the germ of the idea of starting your own promotion?
Yeah, because the thing is this, is like, you have to be different than what's on TV. If you're going to, you're not going to beat what's on TV. They're established. They've got the big money behind them and stuff. So you have to be different than. If you can't be better than, you got to be different than. And we wanted to be different. And the nucleus of Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling, the office, so to speak, are all a bunch of people that do not or rarely watch modern day wrestling anymore because it does not compare, in our opinions, to the 80s and early 90s of territorial wrestling. And we wanted to show, not only bring back the fans. I mean, let's be honest with you. Where did the millions of fans go that were watching the Monday Night Wars? Right? Only a fraction of that watches wrestling now. They've been alienated. Right. They've been alienated. We have to find them. There's a group of them out there somewhere, and we have to find them. But that being said, the difference in styles, we can now introduce that not only to people that were alienated that remembered that style, but we're also able to introduce that to newer generations that have never seen anything like it before, and they can then see what the difference is between what they watch on TV and then the way that we present product.
Very cool. And you mentioned the Monday Night Wars. That's not the vibe I got. I must admit, I don't get as much of the Monday Night vibe as I do get out of like the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling territory. Maybe a little bit more of that. Obviously updated, obviously with newer, more dangerous moves and maybe more fast-paced presentation on TV, but I still see a lot of that in your presentation.
Oh yeah, well my only reason for bringing up Monday night was how many people were watching wrestling.
Oh yeah, I got you.
Right, we're nothing like the Monday Night Wars. We are everything. We are very early WCW mashed with Crockett promotions with a little dash of Memphis and Mid-South.
Yeah, I get that vibe from even as things as simple and as nuanced as the ring and the ring ropes and all that. I just get the vibe of exactly what you just said. The early 90s WCW, late era Crockett wrestling. I love that. That's a great thing that you're presenting on there. And do you find that there's some of the old fans, some of people, I'm not far off your age, our age, that grew up watching the territory, Mid-Atlantic Championship. You find that there's those guys still out there, and are they finding their way to the product?
Yeah, and what you'll find is a lot of those folks, and as much as I hate to say it, a lot of those folks are grandparents now. And the way that we present things is family friendly. We want the grandparents there, right? We want those ones that were coming to the late 70s, early 80s territory stuff and, fondly remember it. And they bring their grandkids or maybe it's older parents that are bringing their teenagers or whatever. But regardless, is what that's the main plan to introduce it to the vast generations, is make it family friendly and family affordable. So those things combined, we're not charging people a light bill to get in. We want them to be able to come every time we come, and it not be a burden on them.
Absolutely. I love that about you guys. And that's something that my buddy Todd Myers, who I've been friends with for a few years, we met through music, and we just kind of happened to say, oh, by the way, I do this in wrestling. And that kind of was like, well, that makes sense that we'd be so close together. How important is somebody like Todd to the promotion? I know he has the utmost of respect and loyalty and has never, ever said anything but the most glowing of things about you.
Well, Todd, not just behind the scenes stuff, because Todd and I grew up on the same things. So sometimes something I don't remember, he will, or vice versa, and reminding each other of small nuances that give a certain effects to when we were growing up, right? It's very easy to think back to what you felt like when you were sitting in the arena looking at the blue and yellow WCW stuff, waiting for the show to start. That is the experience that we want to bring back to people that may have never seen it before. But as far as Todd as a talent, he's our head referee. His attention to detail is immaculate. If you hold a choke for 5 seconds, you're getting disqualified. It's not any of this, hey, come on, get off the guy. Nope, you're disqualified. Todd is the enforcer in there. He's the cop, and the wrestlers know that.
Very cool. So I've done some press for your promotion before. I interviewed Tom Brandy, who was the Patriot for you guys, and I also had on C.W. Anderson. And I know Anderson is a name that is very near and dear to your heart. In many of your promos, you mentioned you are Anderson trained. Could you elaborate on that a little bit? Which one of the Andersons trained you in, and what is your roots to the Anderson family?
So my trainer was Pat Anderson. He's passed recently.
I'm
he
sorry
was
to hear that.
Former Marine. He actually got trained, ironically, by Ivan Koloff.
Wow.
So Koloff trained him. He then became CW's first tag team partner because he saw CW in a locker room and said, that kid looks like an Anderson. He then went to the Andersons, asked permission for CW to be one, and then, he was able to grant permission to CW to be an Anderson, and they actually teamed up for years together before Pat retired. And then eventually, of course, myself and CW got together, and we teamed up for, 7 or 8 years, up until Arn asked CW if he would help Brock kind of come along and start getting more bookings and get some more experience on the road.
Yeah, they're in MLW right now, and they're tearing it up pretty good. And sometimes a little more bloody than others, but it looks like they're doing pretty good for themselves.
Yeah.
All right, so lately your character has been, I hate to say character. Lately, I'll just say it this way. Lately, you've been dropping people on their heads. That's been kind of your thing. Bob Evans being one of them. The announcer, you've done that too. Are you, do you have any thoughts on who could be the one that might stand up to you and try to end your reign of terror, if you will?
Well, most recent set of TV tapings, we saw the return of Mr. Evans, and he came after me with a baseball bat. So there's that. After his 2-month hiatus from me stuffing him on a chair. But yeah, Bob is he's definitely going to be the thorn in my side, and so I'm supposed to be defending the television championship at Scars and Stripes on June 14th against him. So we'll see how that goes.
That's excellent. All right, and just a couple more questions for you, but you've kind of already touched on it. But myself, I watch all the wrestling, and I like almost none of what I watch, and I always get told by my wife, then why do you watch it? And it's like, I just feel I should. But I watch like AEW, and I'll see a guy jump off a ladder through a pane of glass, a pane of glass, and I'm like, how do you put the doll back in the box and present, one guy doesn't like another guy, so they have a logical match, when on one show that's seen nationally, you can see some guy damn near literally kill themselves for a stunt that most people don't remember the next week?
Well, that was something that was people wondered if it would work, and I proved that people will accept what a finish is to wrestling, however you present it. And I knew that going in because when John Cena was beating guys with a standing fireman's carry, and people bought it, and the 5-knuckle shuffle, and people bought it, and the people's elbow, people bought it. Anything can still be a finish as long as you finish people with it, right? So my rules are this. Each guy has a finisher. He uses his finish. They do not kick out unless there is extenuating circumstances that really would be, and it has to be a once in a blue moon type of thing, not every special event, not like they do nowadays where they kick out each other's finishes constantly. If this guy's finish is a DDT and he hits it, it is not a cutoff, it's over. And whether we can say to everybody else it might be a cutoff, but for me, I hit it better than anybody else does and I can pin them with it. That's the logic. Right? So
that's right.
Mine's the pile driver. Now the pile driver's not been diminished much over the years, like something like the DDT or whatever. But I use the pile driver and I do it the way Paul Orndorff used to do it.
You hit that pile driver. It's amazing. There's videos of you hitting the pile driver where you stand the guy on his head and he stays on his head like a railroad spike. You put him in there. I won't ask what the secret is, but is that? Do you feel that the pile driver is as dangerous of a move? And are you surprised that of all the moves that do still get done, the buckle bombs that have, injured legends like Sting and things like that, they're still permitted, but the pile driver is still largely a no-go?
I see that as just a lack of, the word talent might be wrong, but a lack of proper training execution-wise. I've literally been doing the pile driver since I was wrestling my friends in the backyard, and I was doing it the same way I do it now because I figured it out without killing anybody. So it is a science. It is a game of millimeters, if that makes sense. But once you know it, and once you get a feel for it, you know exactly what angle you have to come down at to ensure that your opponent doesn't end up in a wheelchair.
Very cool. If I was making you in a wrestling video game, the pile driver would be the finisher, but you have a couple of other moves that you hit some better than most, and that's, of course, the spine buster, which is obviously back to the Anderson roots, and the brain buster, which is very reminiscent of Michael P.S. Hayes and the Freebirds, the way that you spiked the brain buster. Would you say those are your favorite three signature moves, if you will?
Yeah, you're right. The spine buster exactly mimic Arn's movement. The same twist, the same leg up, everything. It mirrored Arn Anderson. And the brain buster, you were close. The brain buster, that style I stole from gorgeous Jimmy Garvin.
Jimmy Garvin. Okay, so I had the right family, the Freebirds.
You did. So it's straight up, and then instead of where a lot of the guys will snap down, almost like looks like kind of a suplex on the shoulders. I will sit down and it's a straight drop.
There you go. And that is
another science that it would take forever to explain how that works. But yeah,
exactly. A lot of times you'll see a move, they'll say it's a brain buster, but to us at home, it just looks like a suplex. Yours does not look like a suplex.
Yep.
So since we're picking your brain a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the television deal, which I know is the reason we're having you on. It is right now TV. That's the name of the network out there. People can get it over the air. You don't have to have cable. In fact, you don't really get it with cable. You have to do it over the air. In my area, anyway, in Phoenix, Arizona. That's how we get it. But it's very cool that it's out there and anybody can watch. So you don't have any excuses. It's free of charge. Almost any TV can get it. What was the logistics of going with Right Now, and how have they been thus far early in the game as partners?
Actually, before MATW was ever born, the head of Right Now Television and I were having a discussion about what wrestling was versus what it is now. And he said, if you ever put together a company that operates like a territory, that looks like a territory and has guys, that's another thing we haven't hit on. For a smaller company, we have a lot of heavyweight real men on our roster. Right, and that's something that a lot of the smaller companies don't have. Hell, a lot of the bigger companies don't have
That's
a lot of
right.
big guys anymore, right?
I went to an indie show the other day. I'm a 5'8" guy. And I go to an indie show, and I am by no means a short guy in standing next to these wrestlers. I'm like, whatever happened to, I met Bill Eadie, and he was like, I was looking up so high, my neck was craning. He was just a massive giant. And what happened to that? These guys are now my size. What happened? But
right, and that's the wrestling is for everyone mentality that I do not subscribe to. But regardless, he basically said, if you were to come up with this, if you ever decided to do it, you have a home on my network, because that's wrestling to me. And you would get a prime spot if you ever pull that off. And COVID hit. We were running a smaller company at the time called Fusion Wrestling out in Virginia. Mm-hmm. We had run 2 events before COVID. When I took over as booker, we were at 2 events. The first one we drew 700 in Gloucester, Virginia, and the second one we drew 450 out in South Boston, Virginia. Mm-hmm. And then COVID hit, shut everything down, and I decided I wanted to do something completely different than just running an indie, and that's how this was born. And I called up the guy that's the head of Right Now Television. I said, I'm going to do it, but you got to give us some grace, because nobody on my staff has done production to this level before, and it's going to be a big learning curve. And boy, what a learning curve to get to that standard. Was just headache after headache after. The wrestling was easy. The booking was, all that stuff, that all came natural. But the production side of it, we were scrambling until we finally got it right. And now it's there. We got a baseline now that's good enough, and we'll just continue to grow off of that. But once we got it right, and we were back and forth with the network, he would tell us what to change, and we would do it. And then once we got it, his reaction was just, you did it, you effing did it, start cranking these out. And then he's like, you've got Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. leading into TNA, and your replays Thursday nights at 8 p.m. leading into Ohio Valley Wrestling. All right.
Wow. 2 nights a week.
Yeah.
And it's the same broadcast both nights, though, or is it going to be 2 different shows?
Same broadcast.
Okay, cool. Otherwise, you'd interrupt that like global thing where there's like 5 different shows a week, and you're like, I can't compete. I can't compete with.
Yeah. So the other thing too, like people don't have to watch it over the airwaves. The airwaves get to 90 million households.
Awesome.
But they can go right to rightnowtelevision.com and click the watch live, and you can watch whatever's on their TV channel live. It streams on their site 24/7.
Oh, beautiful.
So if you go there tomorrow night at 8 p.m., you can watch it. On your smart device, just download the Right Now TV app, and it's the same thing. Watch live, boom. Whatever's on their TV channel is right there on your smart device.
That's beautiful. All right. So this is such a like a layup question, maybe even a lame question, but what is the limit for what you are hoping to achieve with Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling? Is this already your zenith, or is there more that you're shooting for?
I mean, I don't know what our ceiling is. Mm-hmm. I did not think that in 2 years we would already be here, and that we would already be gaining such popularity and already be multi-state and running. I mean, for example, in May, we're running May 8th, May 10th, 17th, 24th. We're running weekly.
Wow.
And honestly, we're sitting on buildings that we haven't even put on the calendar yet, because we are just running. and I think, honestly, if the right people are there, and in this age of technology where the little guy can appear much bigger, mm-hmm. if we can get somehow to some smallish level of where Crockett was or where WCW was in the early 90s and right some wrongs that happened back then, they've given us the answers on the test. We know what worked, and we know what didn't work. We just do what didn't work. I mean, we just don't do what didn't work. Right? I mean, think about this. If you've been a wrestling fan as long like you have, right?
Yeah.
Anybody that's listening, it's a longtime wrestling fan. Everybody thinks the early 90s WCW. Why in the world would you model yourselves after that? I'll tell you why. The Dangerous Alliance. the Steiner brothers versus Steve Williams and Terry Gordy, right? Anything Rick Rude did, Ricky Steamboat, Dustin Rhodes, Barry Windham, Brian Pillman, Steve Austin. Why wouldn't I model myself after early WCW? I'm not modeling myself after Norman the Lunatic or Big Josh, right? That's their mistakes. But the things they did right, they did better than anybody else.
That's
Vader,
true.
right? Vader, the fights between Rude and Sting and the press conference, like those things are what made me excited to watch wrestling. The International Tag Team Tournament, right? Stuff like that. Just amazing, amazing stuff that gets overlooked because of the ding-dongs, because of Norman the Lunatic, right? And that's the things that you avoid, and you keep the good stuff. And that's what we're trying to do.
Very cool. Vader versus Sting, some of my favorite. It's funny to say big man versus small man because Sting was by no means a small man, but yeah, but it's kind of big man versus small man matches. Yeah. Exactly. Yep. I mean, that's the kind of stuff I loved. And, I'll admit to you, I grew up in New Jersey. I was a Hulkamaniac. I still am to this day. And I love that style of wrestling. And for some reason, I had ingrained in me very early on that I also loved the territory style. And that's what I see with what you guys are doing. Todd's been chewing my ear off. Hey, you got to watch this. Hey, you got to watch that. And he's right. I love it. I love what you guys are doing, and I appreciate you guys putting it out there. You mentioned production. I wanted to mention the theme song. You got a pretty cool entrance theme to the TV show as well. How'd that come together?
That was over the winter time when things slow down, I always tell myself I'm going to learn something new. And I just went and I just learned how to properly prompt AI to make the song I was looking for. And I just kind of kept trying and kept working at refining it, and that's what I came out with.
So that's AI?
Yes, it is.
That's unbelievable. The only time I could tell, being honest with you, is when he says wrestling. It sounds a little unnatural, but other than that, it's like wow, this almost sounds like it's like a softer Metallica. It's really well done.
Yeah, he does kind of enunciate wrestling.
Let Vince Russo-esh. Wrestling.
Yeah.
Wrestling, bro.
I hate it.
It's wrestling, bro. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's 100%.
Oh, man. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I wish you guys the best of luck. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m., find it on Right Now TV, either over the air or on rightnowtv.com. Is that what you said it was? Rightnowtv.com?
Rightnowtelevision.com.
Rightnowtelevision.com. Okay.
Yep, that's the full address.
That's beautiful. I thank you so much for taking the time to do this with me, and I wish you guys the best of luck. And anytime I can help you guys in the future, let me know, because I'd love to be of help.
I appreciate you, buddy.
Hey, this is Medusa, MAD USA, made in the USA, baby. You are listening to Interactive Interview.
Welcome back to Interactive Wrestling Radio. Joining me on the Newsmaker line is a gentleman who has been a part of Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling for a little while now, often telling me all about the good things that they had going on, and now they're coming to fruition as we get Right Now TV tomorrow night. He is Todd Myers, one of the referees over there, and one of the guys behind the scenes as well.
The Todd,
how you doing?
Yeah, no, I'm good, man. I'm good. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for having us on here, and for your support and just kind of helping get word out there as far as what's going on with MATW.
MATW, yes, like I said, Right Now TV starting tomorrow night. National over-the-air broadcast is also available on rightnowtelevision.com and the Right Now app. There's a lot of different ways to watch, but over-the-air in 80 million homes. What does that mean to you guys to finally have reached this this landmark?
It's kind of a I guess, a two-part answer, right? In part, it's kind of a surreal thing, and it's what you've always kind of hoped and dreamed of whenever you want to be a part of wrestling. You want to be part of some promotion, some territory that can regularly run shows and be on TV and get what you believe in out there, On the other hand, it's kind of like status quo in some ways, because I've known this is coming. We've been working towards this. We've been, quote-unquote, filming. We film everything, but we've been filming TV tapings, basically, and putting shows together and submitting them to the network and getting feedback and tweaking things and adjusting things. And so when we filmed the first month of episodes, recently it was all kind of old hat. It was very smooth, and it wasn't really. It felt different. There was a little difference in the air, but all in all, as far as the show and the production and everything, it was status quo from what we have gotten to and where we were at. And so, we got to the point we needed to be at, and we were ready to go. And so it's a really cool thing to see come to fruition. And then today, of all things, to actually see it on the schedule for the channel, and to see that they're not only putting us on Tuesday night, they're putting us on Thursday night as well, both at 8 o'clock, which is just crazy that they're putting us on twice in a week on primetime, which is crazy to think about. So that's kind of double the exposure there. Frustrating it's not on TV here. I'm in like one of the black areas in the DC
Oh,
area,
you're kidding.
I had to download the Roku app, but it's got a lot of coverage all over the country, and so it's a pretty cool thing. So
that is very cool that it's
out, So we appreciate you helping us do that.
Absolutely, and I'm happy to do anything you guys need me to do to help get the word out. 2 different episodes, or should it be the same episode airing twice?
It's going to be the same thing. So people are going to have multiple chances each week to watch. There's going to be the debut, the premiere on Tuesday nights from 8 to 9 before TNA Impact. And then they're going to replay us on Thursday nights, again in prime time from 8 to 9, leading into Ohio Valley Wrestling. So it's kind of Tuesday and Thursday nights are the wrestling nights. I think after TNA and OVW as like Rocky Mountain Pro or one of those things. But we're like the exclusive promotion for right now. This is what the network and the guy who runs it wants. They want MATW, and this has been the plan all along, And so I think it's a combination. I heard Jim Cornette one time talk about Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and he said, right idea, wrong time. And I think in a lot of ways, this is kind of just things are lining up, and it's right idea, right time, And so we're curious to see how it affects everything from marketing to draws and, towns we go to new towns, and just kind of, it's what we've been building to, and now we're here. And so let's see kind of where it goes. We've had people who are very, very influential and have been places in the wrestling business all kind of be amazed when they come to a show, and they're like, this is different than any place else right now. No one's doing this, and I think you're kind of on the cutting edge of what's potentially going to happen here with some smaller promotions and regional promotions and stuff like that. So I'm ready. Let's see what happens,
Very cool. And I mentioned this just a moment ago to PQ, but I'll mention it to you as well. The nuances of the show are what I kind of like right off the bat when you're watching it. The colors, it kind of has that late 80s, early 90s, maybe Crockett /NWA/WCW vibe to it. Is that kind of what you're
to it? So it's one thing that PQ and I share in is obviously several things, but wrestling is one of them, a big one, and it's in particular Crockett, and then even more so, like as much as I've kind of romanticized, Jim Crockett Promotions from the mid to late 80s, which is what pulled me into wrestling and was always kind of my favorite. It was really, looking back on it, it was that early 90s WC, like the pre-Hulk Hogan WCW. Like give me 1990 through 94, And so it's not a coincidence that our ring and our colors and all that are reminiscent of that. I mean, it was all done by design, and it's kind of a combination of Crockett and early 90s WCW. But it's not. It's also not. It's like a tribute to that in a way, right? It's like we want to present what they presented, or the kind of wrestling that they presented. So it's a combination of the two. Visually, it looks more like early 90s WCW, but we do have like the lights up on the 4 posts in the corners like you would see in Crockett and stuff like that, But it's been very important to have that kind of that imaging and that branding and that this ring and these ropes and this, the logo on the turnbuckle and the apron and the same lights and the same entrances and all that. So anywhere that MATW goes, you're getting the same thing. And that's something that people told me when I promoted a couple of shows in this area, in the DC area. People would walk in and they were like, oh my gosh, like I didn't think that it would look like this here. Like, I see it on TV and I see it on video and YouTube and whatever. I didn't think it looked like this here. I didn't think that this is what I was getting at, like a house show. And you walk in and you get that, it hits you in the feel goods, like when you were a kid or when you would go to a house show and you get there early and you walk in and you smell the popcorn and you look and you get that first glimpse of the ring and you just sit there and the anticipation builds. And then and people have told us over and over again that they get that same feeling when they walk into our shows that they do not get anywhere else. And that's a total compliment. That means we're doing something right, because that's what, say what you want about the end of WCW, right? But like when WCW folded, wrestling kind of took a dive. Like WrestleMania is big and bad and colorful and glitzy and everything, but the product's not as good as it was, and the ratings aren't as good as they were. And then you think like, well, okay, well, here comes, NWA TNA. Are they going to be that? And they just never got over the hump. And is Ring of Honor going to be something? And they never got over the hump. And then here comes AEW, and they just never got over the hump. And there's nothing out there that is giving people what they one time, the alternative, the real true alternative to what they want. I know so many people that used to watch wrestling that don't watch it anymore because they say it's too fake, it's too corny, it's not real, it's not like it used to be. Well, we're giving people what it used to be, and it's not corny and old-fashioned and outdated. It's just solid wrestling with logical storylines that will pull you in and characters and people that you can get behind. And we've done it all without names, without bringing people in. And, it's not about bringing people to a show. I'm a firm believer it's about getting them to come back. And if you bring a celebrity, a big name in, you might get people to come out and see them and get their autograph, but they're not going to come back next month. They want to know who else is coming back, or they'll start expecting that, And so we've worked really hard, and it's been very logically booked, and there's been storylines and continuity, and everything is there for a reason, and it all makes sense, and it's not going to insult you, and it's just good, solid, professional wrestling booked smartly. And it's with, you have to look like an athlete, you have to look like a wrestler, it's got to be real, it's got to be believable. But our motto ever since the beginning has been emotion over motion. Like, don't waste moves, don't waste time. Like, make sure you're telling a story and it makes sense and people can get into what you're doing.
So I'm going to ask you, you mentioned it, WrestleMania, I'll mention even AEW in the same breath. You watch one of their pay-per-views and you'll see girls dipping their hands in glass with, double-sided tape and punching each other. You'll see in the main event of WrestleMania, I think Roman Reigns hit 16 spears, finishing moves. And you kind of feel like you're just watching guys hit a big move and then lay there, and then hit a big move and then lay there. Your style seems to be more of a finishing move is what it's supposed to be.
It's a finishing move is your finishing move, and other people are not to do your moves. Your finish is protected and it's put over, and it's there for, it's your finishing move. It's there for a reason. I've watched all kinds of wrestling, right? Like, I watched ECW, and there was cool things about it, and there's things I didn't like about it, just like most anything else. But like, fans got so used to seeing women get the pile driver or put through a table or whatever, and it's like, they get so used to that like you had to do it every show. Well, what's more effective, seeing that every show and people going, oh man, that was cool, but then they want to see it again? But look back to when like Tully Blanchard slapped Baby Doll, and what a massive thing that was, and the heat that came off of that. And it's like, you have to do things logically and in the right way, and it's just, I still believe, and we still believe, that wrestling, for the most part, needs to be believable. Like, you can suspend your disbelief and you can get invested in what's going on, but like, it shouldn't insult your intelligence. There are rules. Like, you need to, like, it's just kind of, I don't watch wrestling on TV. I watch old stuff. I read books, and I watch Dark Side of the Ring and whatever, right? Exactly. But like, I don't watch wrestling. I love wrestling. It's a massive part of my life. I don't watch anything because there's nothing that does anything for me.
Exactly. I feel that same way. Now, when I watch, I'm sitting there and I'm being the critic. And my 15-year-old son, I feel I'm rubbing off on him in the wrong way because he's like saying, "Oh, that looked like shit" or something like that. It's like just watch it, enjoy to some extent. But when I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, they just on free TV had a guy jump off the rafters through 6 tables, and it's like, I'm not going to remember that tomorrow. What was the point? And as opposed to it being like the cataclysmic ending of an angle that. Or another thing that comes to mind is you watch
sense, right? That there's got to be a reason to do something other than just like a trying to get a quick ratings pop or something like that, you know. And
exactly.
Again, you can I can certainly critique all sorts of different things, you know, but like. PQ and I were talking the other day, and we were talking about like one of our bigger marquee events, and we're just going to call it, event name 2025. We're not going to start numbering things, right? Because at some point when you have Fall Brawl 57, it just kind of seems old and outdated or something like that, right? Like WrestleMania is on whatever number, right? Well, it's like, I can't, and I'm sure there's people out there that can, but I couldn't tell you what happened 5 years ago on WrestleMania or 20 years ago on WrestleMania. I can tell you what happened
used to know.
1, 2, 3, 4, but you know what I mean? But
yep, 1 through 10, I got pretty much an eidetic memory for, and everything else since then is kind of like,
just a blur.
Somewhere around there, between 10 and 12 or something. But, yeah, I'm with you. So what made you decide to get in wrestling and become a referee?
I always, growing up, I wanted to be a wrestler. I mean, it was my life since the moment I saw it when I was 7 years old. I actually trained for a little bit when I was 21. Got out of it, and I'm not going to get into that conversation right now, but got out of it. I was probably a little more young and naive than I thought I was at the time, and the business was kind of a rough and tough and dirty business at the time, and I didn't feel like I quite belonged there. But I found myself getting back into it a number of years ago, and helping out with a little production and video stuff and some different things. And if anything, what happened during that year or so that I did that was I kind of made some connections, and met some people. And after that whole thing fizzled out, I kind of had the itch to help out on the show and just wanted to do something because I had missed it, and I knew a guy who was running a show out in Eastern West Virginia, and was talking to him one night, and I knew he had a show coming up, and I just said, "Hey man, you need help with anything?" And I was thinking I would tear tickets or, take someone's robe to the back or something like that. And he said, "No, all I need is a referee." And I said, "I can do that." And he said, "You can?" And I said, "Sure." And he said, "Are you free on this date?" And I said, "Yep." And I was booked. And I immediately thought, holy crap, what did I just do? Like, I don't know how to referee. I can't referee. And subsequently, someone else heard that I had taken a booking and asked me if I wanted to work the week before. So I actually debuted in another town the week before. I wasn't terrible. And they invited me back the next month and the next month, and I just started picking up other things. And that'll be 15 years this fall, this October. It was October 2010 in Hedgesville, West Virginia was where I made my debut. Never in a million years thought I would be a referee, but it just kind of happened, and I've worked hundreds of shows probably since then, and literally thousands of matches over the last 15 years.
As a referee, when you watch on TV and you see the referees that are possibly narcoleptic, like they just get touched and they just and they faint like a girl in the old movies, does it kind of make you roll your eyes, or do you get what has to be done? And what is your view when you see that?
I try and have a level of humility about myself. Like, I realize I don't have like the prototypical like look, or certainly not body size for a referee. Like, I'm twice as large as any referee in WWE or something like that. And I have friends that referee in AEW and WWE and stuff that I've worked on shows with numerous times. But I don't want to ever say like, I'm an amazing, great referee, because I always try and better myself. But I do watch stuff and I go, man, this referee sucks. Like, I can't believe this person is making a living and they're on, in whatever promotion, I was always taught that you need to, as a referee, you help tell the story, but you legitimize what's happening there. So you have to enforce the rules. And if people need to work around that. And if they don't, then you need to legitimately disqualify someone or count them out. And I'll do things I'll talk to people the whole match. I'll talk to guys in there, and I don't just run in the corner and go 1, 2, 3, 4, you're disqualified. I'll buy them some time and I'll talk and I'll say, hey, you got 5 seconds. If I hit 5, you're going to get disqualified. Bring them out, break it up. And then I'll kind of start at that. So I'll buy them a little time and tell them, remind them, because sometimes people can get wrapped up in the moment and temporarily block out a ref or something like that. So I'll kind of remind them in my own little way, But we give legitimacy to it. If you watch football or basketball or baseball or any other sport, and you see someone openly break a rule and in front of a referee, and the referee doesn't do anything, you would flip your lid. But it's somehow become acceptable in wrestling, and it shouldn't be. If wrestlers are competent and talented enough and know how to work, then they should know how to work within the rules and the context.
Unfortunately, not to give an opinion, but that's kind of come along with people all being in on the story, being in on it. They all think that they know, oh, well, the referee's not supposed to react. That's why he didn't react. And it's yeah, but that takes you right out of it. Then you realize you're watching a work, and that kind of takes you right out of it.
If it's done properly, it will kind of, like I said, it will suspend that disbelief, and it will pull you in. If not, then you just sit there and act like a smart fan and do your chants and wear your belt and hold your cell phone up and record the stuff, right? Wrestling fans aren't as smart as they think they are. I mean, some are, yes, but in general, they're not as smart as they think they are. I've been around wrestling for a long time, and I'm smarter than a lot of people, but I don't know jack squat compared to a lot of other people. So it's kind of I'm around it, I'm involved in it, and I'm still learning stuff. And there's no way some fan sitting in section 3 of the floor section knows. I mean, it's,
Yeah.
So
the coolest experience.
Wrestling fans believe what you tell them to believe, whether they know it or not. And I had a promoter at one time. If wrestling is if WWE or AEW all of a sudden started changing the way that they presented their product, and they've scaled back on some things or started enforcing rules more or gave credibility to the referees, people are going to start turning back to, I think it's lazy in a lot of ways, but it's, my opinions are my opinions, and, so.
Yep. There you go. That's almost a Vince McMahonism. He said, something along the lines of, the fans don't know what they want until I tell them what they want. And it's that's pretty true.
It's true. I mean,
it's true.
So
there you go. All right. Well, 2 questions left for you. One will be about music, and the other one is going to be about tomorrow night, and going forward for that matter. Let's say you're standing in front of 2 doors. One door is the door to go to the Kiss Unmasked show. And the other door is to go to a likely never going to happen, but it's happening for you, Kix reunion show. Which are you going through? Which door are you taking?
Oh, I'm going to the Kiss Unmasked show in Las Vegas. So I love Kix, and I've seen them a million times, and I love Rhino Bucket, and there's a Kix convention fan fest coming up in September that Rhino Bucket's going to play at, and all the guys in Kix are going to be there, and it's a cool local thing, and I'm going to try and go to that. I indirectly owe Brian Forsyth a debt of gratitude for turning me on to the proper human diet and indirectly helping me lose 50 pounds over the last year and a half, because I watched him eat steak for dinner every night. But I'm picking the Kiss show. They're one of my top all-time favorite bands, and I've even contemplated going to that show in Las Vegas in November. And so,
it's really interesting.
The Kiss show.
It's really interesting. The same month that Kiss is going to play on Mass, you got Peter Criss releasing a new album that they're saying is a hard rock album. I mean, Ace is still out there. It's pretty amazing that the guys that we grew up with are still out there doing their thing, and I'm glad. I know a lot of our KISS fans, fellow KISS Army members, have kind of kicking them in the ass, saying, "Yeah, you said you were retiring." Well, I don't care if they never retire.
I don't, not touring and not putting the makeup on and the costumes and doing the whole production. I certainly understand, but that doesn't mean you can't still put stuff out and do things and play a one-off here and there. And so I totally support it. I'm not Eddie Trunk. I never had a problem with Tommy and Eric wearing the makeup. And my favorite era of KISS is the Revenge era. I mean,
me too.
I love the Unmasked and the Revenge stuff, and so if this is what I might even in some tiny way get in Las Vegas, I'll be there in a heartbeat. I mean, I love KISS, so.
Absolutely. Revenge was my first KISS album.
Mine
and
too.
I went back. Yeah, there you go. And then I went back and I got all the Unmasked stuff before I got all the makeup stuff from the 70s. And I was one of the ones that's like, oh, that stuff just sounds so old. And now I just listen to even, the 70s stuff all the time. But
yeah.
I was such a jaded,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean,
youngin' at the time.
Yeah, my first 3 KISS records were Revenge, Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, and Alive 3. And
there
so
you
everyone
go.
talks about Alive 2 and Alive. I'm like, nope, I'll take Alive 3 any day of the week. And I'll take
Alive
those
3.
80s remixes on Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. And I love that stuff. So.
And my brother-in-law, he was a huge KISS fan too, and he hated Hot in the Shade, and I always loved it. And I always said, it's the best Bon Jovi album that KISS ever released. It's awesome.
So did you ask PQ about KISS or any of those questions like that?
We didn't talk about music because I wasn't sure he was into it the same way we are.
He is. So
okay.
He likes a little bit heavier stuff, but he leans heavier, I should say. He actually went on the Monsters of Rock with me last year.
Oh, cool.
And so, yeah, he was there, and he's a massive KISS fan. And so him and his uncle, Clint, who's a couple years older than him, they had this whole conversation, and they're super huge KISS fans. And so they're more 70s stuff. They're a couple years older than me, and so they were in from the original day. I was kind of late because I was, of course, as you know, like the late 80s, early 90s hard rock scene, so that's what I'm into, or that's what era I was into most with KISS.
Yeah.
But then subsequently I saw him on Psycho Circus. That was the first time I saw him, and I have retroactively, I got everything on vinyl and CD and every box set, and they've got an Alive box set this year and a Dress to Kill box set coming out. So
that's cool.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well, last question is back
nerdery.
on.
Yeah.
There you go. And last question here for you is back on to Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling.
Yes, sir.
I kind of is the same question I asked PQ in the final question, and that is, what is the ceiling? What is the ceiling for MATW? Are you guys even thinking beyond tomorrow night and how you guys do when you're on national TV, or is there a plan even beyond this?
So there certainly is a plan. And some of it's been talked about. A lot of it is like, well, we just got to see where this goes. But I can sum it up without blowing the question off. I could really sum it up in, one thing PQ said was do what Crockett didn't do, right? Like they say, if Crockett had never expanded nationally, if he'd have just stayed in the Mid-Atlantic, if he kept Starrcade in Greensboro and didn't go to Chicago, they'd still be in business. Now, would they? I don't know. But he wanted to just stay in your area, right? Like, it's great that we have TV in L.A., right? It's great that we have TV in Las Vegas and Houston and wherever. But we're not going to necessarily run shows there. Like, we're going to keep it in Virginia and the Carolinas. And ideally, what would happen is we would get to the point where we can, have a couple of shows a month, and we could have it kind of across, from the Virginia-Maryland border down through the South Carolina-Georgia border, and we can run, bigger high schools or college arenas and gyms and have 2,000 people at a show. I mean, that would be ideal, that we can have 8 towns, right? We can have Richmond and Norfolk and Raleigh and Greensboro and Charleston or whatever, right? And we can just have a loop. and do that and have a sustainable promotion that can be on TV and draw decent numbers, and people can get paid well, and some people can make a living there, and we can put our bigger events on like an iPay-per-view or something like that, and just kind of see how it goes. There's even been chatter of like a kind of Clash of Champions type live event on TV, so different things like that. And so just grow it and see where it can go, but we do want to keep it within the confines of the Mid-Atlantic area, which is where we are. And so while talent may potentially go in other places, or talent swaps, or our champion might go do a show somewhere, who knows, but we're not looking to start running shows in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles. We're keeping it in our area, and we're trying to, because that's really the core and the base of what we came from and what we like and what we want came from, right? So we want to keep that. There's tons and tons of people out there who are disgruntled old wrestling fans, and if you're a disgruntled old wrestling fan, if you're someone that grew up on Jim Crockett Promotions or WCW on TBS or any of that kind of stuff, Georgia Championship Wrestling, even UWF stuff, that kind of wrestling, check us out and give us a chance and see if it's not that true alternative that you have not had for the last 25 years.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Right now, TV will be the home of Mid-Atlantic Territory Wrestling starting tomorrow night, every Tuesday night and Thursday night at 8 o'clock. And, of course, we will be promoting everything that they're doing on WrestlingEpicenter.com to promote it. Todd, I wish you the best of luck, and I wish you PQ the best of luck as well. Thanks for taking the time to do this with me.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
This is Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Interactive Wrestling Radio. Oh, rush.
Featuring the interactive interview.
Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Interactive interview. Oh, yeah.
Formerly The Blaze.
The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze. The Blaze rock.
Yo, Maniacs, so what you gonna do when the Blaze of Maniacs runs wild on you?
On WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter.
Wrestling Epicenter. The Wrestling Epicenter. Don't get off.
And now we shamelessly name drop from our history.
The Wrestling Epicenter would like to apologize for the following.
All right, everybody. Viva la raza. Viva la raza.
Hey, y'all.
Hello, ladies.
Hey, guys. We had a lovely conversation. First lady. Absolutely. Oh, look at me. She's so kooky.
Be there. Where else?
Interactive Wrestling Radio. Wrestling
Epicenter.
Oh, my God. You win. Wow. Being interactive.
Whoa. I just got some noise there. I was going to shoot him. Yeah, I almost missed my man. Breaking neck. I got 2 words for you. I've heard a lot about you guys. Let's go. I see my language. Getting over the shot. I see him now. We're into the many.
No nerves.
That was great. It's going to be cool. Woo. What it's all about. The purest point of view. The living legend. Arrogant.
You're listening to me.
Instead of statement, I'm talking to you.
So lonely without you.
Yeah.
In the land of extreme.
Testify. Nevermore. Interactive interview. I'm not just the best. Interactive interview with a plastic
You
head.
earned the right.
Nobody. You better keep listening. Thank you very much. Controversy creates cash. Professional wrestling.
Made in the USA, baby.
Memphis wrestling. The guy on fire. I'm not
We were sexy.
What a show.
One and only.
Interactive Wrestling Radio.
Wrestling
Epicenter. Interactive interview. We took care of the business. This isn't ballet. We are huge with this whole. You're where it's at. You gotta recognize who's the best. Make sure to tune in each and every week. I'll come out of your computer. Knock down your door and turn it on for you. Or else I'm gonna kick your stinking teeth in. And that's the bottom line.
Have a nice day.
It's showtime!
Don't forget to like and subscribe.